Welcome to the Healthcare Revolution podcast. We are so excited today to have the next generation of physical therapists here. Our guests today, we have Porter and Mackay. They're both doctoral level PT students here at the University of Utah.
Healthcare now, the goal is to get it to everybody. What's amazing to me though is the power of adaptability of our bodies.
What we do with our bodies really matters.
The research shows patients get better when they have a good therapeutic alliance.
Welcome to the Healthcare Revolution podcast. We are so excited today to have the next generation of physical therapists here. They are in PT school and just absolute ballers in the social media space. They've started their own social media accounts to help the rising generation of physical therapists navigate the healthcare system, specifically in PT school. So fun to have them on. They're so fun to watch, and they balance really challenging lives right now. Being in PT school, they're married. Porter has kids. Mackay's definitely got some on the way. But so excited to have them on the podcast. I'll give an introduction of both of them before we have them jump in here. But our main topic today is talking about the evolution of healthcare. And what are they seeing in their doctoral level programs right now that's different about the healthcare space than what we experience as society, as we are in the healthcare space? I really believe we're in a revolution. That's what this podcast is all about. And we're so excited to talk about this next generation of healthcare providers. So our guests today, we have Porter and Mackay. They're both doctoral level PT students here at the University of Utah. They're in the St. George cohort. And they are just so fun to talk to and to really dive deep into the future of our healthcare. And Porter has a unique perspective. He, very similar to me, owned a painting business and has done a lot of painting in the past, very, very similar to what I've done, and just followed a very similar path. So excited to have them on. Like I said, their platform, their Instagram, their social media is all about helping the next generation of PT students, whether it's navigating the testing system, navigating how to get into schools, navigating how to apply and do their essays and things like that. And then most importantly, how do you get through PT school and enjoy it? You know, that's really what it's about. How do we enjoy the journey and not just the destination? So really appreciate what they're doing to build that space. So Porter and Mackay, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time having this conversation about the next generation. We are very similar in the sense I went to the same school, so we have a lot of the same professors. I think we got to get this out there before we go too much. You never ask a parent who their favorite child is, right?
Right.
I'm going to ask you, who's your favorite professor so far?
You go first.
This is really important. I'm putting you on the spot here. Be careful. Tread lightly.
This is going to be bad. Yeah, this is going to
We won't ask
be
you your
clipped
least favorite professor, right?
used for the rest of my career. This is bad.
Yeah, I know. This is good.
Oh, man. All right. I'd say, just recency bias. Caitlin, one of our professors down in St. George. Caitlin Anderson? Yes. Oh, she's awesome.
She teaches cardiopulmonary.
She teaches cardiopulm.
She's a good time. She was not my professor, but I've chatted with her on the phone. She is a fun gal.
She's a hoot. Yes, she's a riot. So
The energy in her classes is just the best.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so fun. It makes learning just exciting. It really does.
Fun fact is the one class I almost failed out of PT school was that class.
cardiopulm.
So maybe if I had her, I
If
would.
you'd have had her, it would have been great.
You would have been fine. Yep.
I just needed some energy.
That's right.
I love
You
it.
did.
Yeah,
You did.
needed some energy.
Porter, how about yours?
Whew, this is a hard one. You know, I'm going to say I love organization. And I just have to shout out Brad Jensen for neuroanatomy. I mean, the way he makes neuro just exciting, but organized and doable. It was just very helpful for me because it was a hard class. I'm not going to put it lightly that neuro was tough for me, but Brad was one to really just kind of motivate me, but then have things organized where I knew exactly what was happening. So I was ready to roll.
Absolutely. I love Brad. He's an exceptional teacher. He breaks down things very simply. If you think about neuroanatomy, like this is the class that we're talking about, like neurosurgeons are taking to really understand the brain, the nervous system, going super deep into it. Like it is almost identical to med school. At one point, I think we had some med students in our programs that are taking it with us, but ultimately these are tough classes. But let's go ahead and dive into the student perspective. Like, I really want to hear, like, why'd you guys start PT Bound in the first place? What really started that movement that you're striving to create, and what keeps it going?
Initially to start, we were starting school, and Mackay and I were talking one day, and we see the trend of where social media is becoming a great tool for anybody, for whether you want to be an influencer or you want to advertise your business. And so I just felt like we both felt like we needed to learn social media to be successful in physical therapy. Healthcare now, the goal is to get it to everybody. And what better way than social media? And so we felt like initially, let's find a way to learn social media. And then secondly, we were just passionate about helping people. Like that's why we went into healthcare. But I was actually a student advisor for health professions through my whole undergrad. I led a team to get people in med school, PA, physical therapy. And so I was like, hey, I know this stuff. Well, we both had a good acceptance, and so let's help people get into school. And so we kind of just both were like, let's do it, and it's been really fun, really, really fun.
That's awesome. What about for you, Mackay? What kind of ignited this passion on your side?
Well, same with Porter. I wanted to get into the social media world, and it's not the easiest to get in front of a camera. And so when Porter had come to me about his desire to do something like that, I was like, well, this is perfect. Like, I don't have to do it alone. I don't have to be the only one in front of the camera. So that was great. It was really just all about, first, getting comfortable with social media. And when he brought up the idea of helping students get into PT school, it resonated because we went to undergrad together. We met each other our last semester at BYU, Idaho. And when we were in school, we didn't know each other for a long time, actually. But then we met each other at an interview at one of the schools we applied to. And it was funny. Ever since then, I feel like we were texting, calling each other. We're like, how did you do this? Like, what did you do? How did you upload your letters of recommendation? How did you do this? We were always in contact, and we were like, to be honest, a lot of our questions were, I don't know. And so we just felt like there wasn't a lot of super relevant, easy to understand information out there on the application process.
There's not a lot of resources that could guide you through that process. So you guys really wanted to, you saw the struggle and saw how that you had helped each other out, and you wanted to create an avenue or resources for other people so they didn't have to go through the same things that you went through.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. And that's ultimately about what mentorship is all about, right? We've learned how to do something the hard way, and then we're collapsing time for other people. And I remember back to my painting days when, I had made so many mistakes. I was painting a house with my friend, last week, and I was telling him all of these mistakes. I am really good at painting exterior houses now, exceptional, because of the mistakes that I had made, right? And when I mentor other people, I'm able to tell them these stories about these mistakes that I had made. One of the mistakes that I had made, I started my painting company. We just got this thing off the ground. It was my first job. We were 3 days in. We were just wrapping it up. We were doing so good. And one of my friends said, are you living the business life? Are you able to step away from the business and trust your people to manage it? And this was early on. This is an early on business mistake. I'm like, I'm going to do it. So I went and helped my brother haul hay that night, just left him for a couple hours. And I got a phone call that said, my house is on fire. You might want to come. So me and my little Honda Civic, throw it in second and just going. I get there, no lie, there's 4 fire trucks that were blocked off, the whole block of this home. So I parked way in the distance in a church parking lot and ran down by foot. And the fire chief greeted me and let me know that my crew had started the fire. And as a young 22-year-old, my head was spinning. I just didn't know what to think about. I'm like, well, how? How does a painter start a fire? Like that? Did they leave a cigarette? I had one of my guys that was a smoker. So I'm like, maybe he left a cigarette butt and it caught fire, you know? And they proceeded to tell me the story that my sprayer was covered with a canvas sheet. And I knew that my sprayer was electric and it didn't have any heat to it. So I said, I don't know if that was the story or like if that's really what happened, because it doesn't have any heat to it. And it's a brand new sprayer. I just bought it last week. So there's no way there was any electrical failures. I said, can you show me? And they showed me the wall where it all started on the back part of the shed. And I saw above, you could see the smoke around a halogen light. So they left masking on a halogen light. We had one rule. Biggest rule is you never leave masking on the job, and all the masking on the ground. I don't care where you're at in the part of the job, no masking is left on a house. If you've ever seen masking that's left overnight, wind comes, where does it end up, Porter?
Oh, it's all a mess.
All down the neighborhood.
Job where you got to repaint it anyway.
Yeah, like you just don't leave masking up, right? That's how you know the difference between a novice and an expert painter. But left masking on a halogen light, and it was kind of paper was packed behind it. The light had turned on through motion, and then it heated up. It lit it on fire, and then all of our equipment was underneath it with ton of paper, ton of masking tape, lit it on fire, and then lit the whole house on fire. So long story short, like I tell this story to other people and other painters, and they know not to make the same mistakes. And I love that you guys are doing that. You struggled through this, and now you're paving a path, this golden path that they can tread on in the future. And what a cool thing that you guys are doing. Tell us what you're hearing from this next generation. What are common questions they're asking you?
Kind of like we mentioned, I mean, there's just that confusion initially where we're hearing different advice from different people and really just kind of lost. Like sometimes where do we start? Like how do we like examples of like how do we shadow? How do we go talk to like PTs and like get these hours like and things like that? And it's been interesting, that trend of seeing that, the maybe misconceptions and confusion of it. And that's where, again, with PT Bound is that really we want preparing for PT school to be easy, not stressful. And especially, I mean, back to your experience of, you know, having trial and error, you don't want to have a big error applying to PT school. That can cost you a year, 2 years, you know, things like that. So that's where we want to help people cut that time again, be effective, go get your shadowing done, go learn how to talk to people so you're able to then answer your interview questions and going forward from there. And so that's kind of the main things we're seeing from students is, where do I start?
Mackay, what's the most common mistakes you feel that you've heard over the time that you've done this that pre-PT students are making?
I think we get a lot of questions in our DMs, and
that can consume you sometimes.
Yeah, the thing
you
that
become an academic advisor.
Yeah, almost. Well, he was. So yeah, we make Porter do all the DMs. No, I think getting too caught up on one specific part of your application. You're only worried about your GPA. You're only worried about how many hours you had. You're only worried about your letters of recommendation, when really they're looking for the whole picture. The application committee is, right? Trying to get in. And I mean, I think not hyper-focusing on something is huge. And unfortunately, that's what we see a lot, is hyper-focusing on one thing.
Yeah, I love that. You got to diversify, right?
Yeah.
And what I like about this conversation and where we're going with it is that it's a team effort, right? You guys are giving back to the future, or to the future generation, right? And I hope our profession, you know, through school and through your internships is giving back to you. But that's what healthcare is really about, this team mentality of everyone assisting with the future generation. And I love that advice. Like, don't go after one thing. I remember my GPA was 3.2. Like, I was terrified I wasn't getting PT school because of my GPA. But my professional experience and my research that I did, all the grants that I wrote, the programs that I started, and my work experience exceeded all of my classmates. I mean, I remember I did 3,000 hours of of observation before I got into PT school. You know, before I did my applications. Like, it was so rounded that they were able to see my GPA and say, yeah, he struggles in school, but we can work on that. But he has these other skills that we really want in our profession. So I love that. Any other thoughts?
I think just again that I think we sometimes, especially with GPA, is we think that that's the make or break thing. And if I don't get an A in every class, I'm not going to be as good of a doctor or good of a physical therapist. And that's not the case. There is so much more to patient care than having the A in cardiopulm. Like, it's really how well can you connect with that patient? How well can you give them care that's centered of what they want, right? Of what they need that will heal them and help them recover. But then how well are we listening to that patient? There's so much more to patient care than grades. And I think the earlier on you can understand that, yes, meet the minimum, do what you need to do to be prepared. But the earlier you understand that, the better that will carry with you as you prepare for PT school and even throughout PT school.
Yeah.
Yes, build the foundation, get those grades to pass, but make sure you're looking at your whole holistic approach in the future.
I love that. The best clinicians are really the best listeners, because if you truly listen to your patients, they're going to tell you exactly what's going on and how to fix them. So I love that. All right, now let's dive into the evolution. What are you guys seeing that's evolving in healthcare in PT school right now? What's different?
I think, at least from what I expected to what I'm getting in PT school, is a lot of what Porter and what you just said is it's a lot more about understanding your patient than it is the technique of a squat. We're learning a lot more about how to connect with people, how to understand their problems, and then how to work with them and learn how to teach them, learn how they learn. All those people skills, we're learning a lot more of that than I expected to be learning. So I think that's cool. And obviously,
why do you think that is? Why are they making that shift?
Well, the research shows, I mean, patients get better when they have a good therapeutic alliance. What's just a therapeutic alliance means your therapist and your patient have an alliance. They have a team. You're basically a team with your patient. You're working together with your patient. And so if you want to get your patients better, you need that alliance or that teamwork with your patient. And so I think the focus on that has been helpful. It's something I didn't expect, but it's been great. Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things that healthcare lacks is what you're learning right now, the ability to deeply understand people. And when we're seeking to understand, it really collapses time. Because if we think about the evidence-based triangle, what we learn in PT school, one pillar or one corner of the triangle is patient preference. One is what the research says, and one is your clinical experience. And where your dot lines up is going to be different for every single one. Sometimes you're going to rely more on your clinical expertise. Sometimes you're going to rely more on what the patient preference is. But really, it's a balance between all three. And if we're not truly seeking to understand our patients, we're really losing out on so much. And what has that meant for you as you've gone through this learning process?
Yeah, for me, it's meant that there's a lot more to it than I thought there was.
You just wanted to learn the squat mechanics, right?
I did, yeah. No, I did. I just wanted to know what to do after you sprain your ankle, right? And that stuff's important, obviously. I mean, that's why people are coming to you. But I don't know. My experience in healthcare, when I've gone to the doctor, like you said, there's not a lot of alliance built with your clinicians a lot of the times. And the system's kind of set up that way where you don't have very much time with your doctor. You know, they'll come in, ask you a few questions, and give you some advice and then leave, right? And it's like, okay, I don't even know this person, and they're giving me advice. Whereas, and I think one of the reasons I chose physical therapy is you get to spend so much time with your patients, and you have a lot more opportunity to build that therapeutic alliance. So I might have just went off on a tangent there. I don't even know what you asked, but
ultimately, in my mind, we're not going to take advice from someone that we don't know that cares about us, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe has walked in our shoes before, right? I can take painting advice from Porter because he's painted houses, right? I could take PT advice from Mackay because he's been through a whole year of his doctoral program, right? Maybe certain topics, maybe not all the topics yet.
Yeah, that's a stretch.
But essentially, like, you seek advice from people that have walked the path that you want to walk, that maybe you look up to. It's like, man, I really like the lifestyle that you have, and I want some of that too. And then most importantly, they care about you, right? And if they don't have those things, why should we take advice from them? I mean, you think about like the typical primary care provider. Maybe they're overweight, and then they're giving you exercise advice, right? There's a discrepancy, right? How are you supposed to create an alliance if they're not living the life that they're talking about, right? You want a provider that's walking the walk, not just talking the talk, right? And what you're talking about is they actually care about you. That's why we call it health care, right? Because healthcare providers should care for us. And unless they deeply care, how are we supposed to take advice from them, right? But our unconscious mind just shuts off when we know people don't care, right? When it's just like a written script, it's their job, they're clocking in, clocking out. But what I love about what you guys are learning is deep connection, really caring for people. Anything you'd add to that, Porter?
I think, again, just to kind of piggyback off of what's been said, is that healthcare alliance, that trust between the provider and a patient is crucial. Like, I don't think there's any special magic technique or pill or, manipulation that can be done as well if trust isn't there. Like, it really can't. And so I think that's why schools are changing that focus, and I'm really grateful for it. It caught me by surprise too, initially starting school, but it really goes back to that foundation. Like you've said, it's that we care. That's why we provide healthcare, because we care for people. And how can we show that?
Yeah, tell me what school is teaching you about the importance of educating your patients. How is that? Was it what you anticipated, or is it different?
I would say with educating our patients, it's that's super important, because if we can't explain what we're doing to our patients, that again doesn't build that trust of why, what are you doing here? And I think that's what's cool about school, is that it puts us in a situation where teaching is just as important as learning, especially as physical therapists, because as Mackay said, we're with patients a lot more than with doctors. And so we got to be able to explain, okay, hey, from this anatomy that I learned, this is how we're going to fix this problem, because this deficit is this, and so we're going to adjust it by this. And so I think being able to, again, that educating patients, again, just builds that trust, not only that, hey, I know what I'm doing as your provider, but let me not keep you in the dark of what's going on, how we're going to help you.
Yeah, I love it. Education is so important. I mean, trust is really the balance between two factors. You learn this from Covey's work. And the two factors are competence and character, right? So you got to get the right person with the right values and their character and who they are, right? And then the competence is the second piece. Are you actually good at what you do? And those two pieces really are what build trust. If you're super competent, but you don't have the right character and you don't actually care for people, people see right through that, right? It's like, well, you're good at what you do, but you really just don't care, right? And then you have the other aspect, is like, you care a lot, but you're not good at what you do, right? But the ultimate balance with trust is to get both and to rise both together. And there's some days where maybe our character holds up our competence, right? You guys have probably felt that. You feel like you're this imposter syndrome where you're like, am I really a DPT? Am I really a student DPT? right? Am I qualified to do this? I'm not sure, right? But ultimately, we got to raise both of those tides together. What else do you have for us, Mackay? What other thoughts you have?
The only other thing I'd say is you need to understand how your patients learn, because everyone's going to learn a different way. So if you have a specific way you're teaching something and it works for one person, it might not work for another person.
Yeah.
Like if I'm teaching a single leg squat to a 20-year-old male runner, it might not be the same way I'm teaching it to a 65-year-old female, right? It's just, you have to understand how somebody learns. And once you can understand that, and that comes through a conversation with them of how they learn, you can teach them better.
Yeah, absolutely. You just think about teaching and learning. Have you guys taken that course yet?
Yeah.
I just took it.
So your professors would be proud here. But teaching and learning, a lot of us in PT school kind of look past. We're like, I know how to teach. But I believe in healthcare, that is probably the most important course in PT school. If that is missed, if we are unable to customize our education to the patient experience, it's going to go right over their heads. We talked earlier about how the average American is able to read at a third grade level, right? It's different for everyone, right? And the way we educate them, whether you're a visual learner or you got to be hands-on. You got to actually be doing it with good feedback. Maybe the feedback's too much. Maybe the feedback's too little, right? How do you actually figure out how to customize it to that individual? And then all of a sudden your next patient's in and you got to shift gears, right? But what school is really teaching you is how to shift your gears, seek to understand people, learn their learning style, and then adapt to them, right? Be that chameleon that adapts to their needs rather than adapting to your needs. And it's such an incredible experience, and I love that you use the term alliance, right? You create this alliance, and alliance comes through that trust of both character, competence, and both of you coming together and meshing as one for the common goals of the patient. So I love that. Tell me about what future PTs need to know about what's happening with healthcare. What would you say to them?
That's all.
I think, again, back to kind of just what you were saying is being adaptable. I think learning that skill of adaptability with patients, with maybe the way your physical therapy work looks like. I mean, being adaptable to, hey, I'm gonna be vulnerable and start making social media videos. There's so many different avenues with physical therapy, which even caught me by surprise in PT school. But that's the exciting part. I think it's really exciting. There's so much different avenues you can take, and it's exciting. And I think that's what will help you succeed in the future, is having that adaptability. Yes, with patient care, but there's so much more to it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about what PT school is really like right now. What is the PT school life? For the people that are like, man, I just want great healthcare, patients that are saying this, like, what do people actually go through in the school process that they need to know?
Yeah, well, if you want a rundown of kind of what we've learned so far, we can try and condense it here.
Yeah, give me a summary.
So,
I mean, ultimately, it's an emotional roller coaster, right? It's like you go in and you're super confident, and then all of a sudden you're like, get slapped in the face, and it's like, whoa, I know nothing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, get confident in one thing, and then you get hit by another, right? And it's just like this constant roller coaster. And you get to clinicals, and it's like, you just take a deep breath, and you're like, I'm seeing my first patient on my own with my clinical instructor not in the room, right? I'm the only one in here. And you're like, and they're relying on me, right? And then you take the stat of, I know more than 97% of the population when it comes to this type of topic, right? So it's just like up and down. But tell me what you guys are experiencing right now.
Yeah, a lot of that. We start our first clinical rotations on Monday. So a clinical rotation is when you go and it's like your internship, right? You're going and working as a clinic as, a student physical therapist, but people are looking at you, to know your stuff. And so we're feeling a bit of that imposter syndrome, not knowing if we're ready for it, but it is a roller coaster. But PT school really, it does prepare us well. Like, I just think back to our first semester to now, like a year ago. We know a lot. We know a lot more now than we did before. Whether that's, the anatomy of the whole body, learning that from dissecting cadavers. Or
let's dive into that for a minute.
Sure.
People don't understand the level of depth that you take into dissecting human bodies. Tell us, be real vulnerable with that. Like, what does that look like? I don't think people really know.
Yeah. No, what was interesting is they got us into class and they said, okay, we're taking the med school anatomy that we teach to doctors, and we're taking all of the things that are going to be relevant to you. So focusing a lot on musculoskeletal stuff. So that means your muscles, your bones, your tendons, and then we take neuroanatomy, your heart, your brain, learn about the heart, all this stuff. But so we're taking the same level as doctors are. At least they told us that. I'm quoting Brad on that one. And we go in, and there wasn't a lot of. This is my first experience dissecting a cadaver. Yeah. I'd seen cadavers before.
Tell us what dissecting is.
That is basically you have a scalpel, some other tools, and you cut open the body and you find every structure in a body of someone who's deceased and donated their body to the program.
How many bodies did you have for your class?
So we had 24 students and we had 6 bodies. And so we had groups of 4. Mackay and I were in a group. And so you have 4 students kind of dissecting a body, and we'll go through different sections to peel back each layer of muscular tissue, as well as find every section of the artery to see, okay, hey, an artery goes through this group of muscles, and then nerves as well. And so it really was breaking apart every single piece of the human body, of that musculoskeletal system, to not only be able to say, find it in this area, okay, yeah, this is exactly where it's at, and then be able to then later get a pin in it, leave class for a couple of days, and then have an exam where there's just a pin and you got to write down exactly what that is, where it's at, maybe even trace it back, say, yeah, this comes from this nerve root in the spinal, in your...
Yeah, they could pin something and say, what nerve is this? That's simple, right? Yeah. But what nerve does this branch off of? What level, right? And you got to think, okay, travel that all the way back up. Where does it start? Yep. And then they could say, what nerve does this muscle innervate? What is the action of the muscle that this nerve innervates, right? Yep. There's so many questions that could be asked, but they just pin something on any body, right? Any body that you dissected, and you have to answer that question with specificity, right? And you could be just one step off. It's like when you do a math equation and there's 17 steps, you get to the end and the answer is the answer, but you got one step wrong. Yep. And that's how PT world is. That's how healthcare is. Yep. Ultimately, it's problem solving. And I love in PT school that we get this level of skill and depth of training. You just think about what it takes for a human being to say, I'm going to donate my body to science. And you, as a PT student, get the opportunity to take someone's body. What deep level of respect, for 4 of you to be able to take one human body. That is incredible to me, that we have that level of respect in society, that someone is willing to donate their own body to be able to essentially do what we've been talking about the whole time, create a path for you. Imagine PTs, 30 years ago. Do you think they had that same opportunity to be able to look into 4-to-1 ratio of a body and break down every single body part, every single muscle, every single artery, nerve, vein? It is just incredible what we're able to do. And walk us through the steps, like this roller coaster of the semester of human dissection. What was it like?
It was a lot for sure. And I mean, it'd be back and forth where, yeah, we show up to class and we've got a list of a couple hundred terms and here we go. Let's find them. And so, I mean, it'd sometimes take us quite a while. We'd be in there 3, maybe 4 hours finding each section and trying to be careful because, I mean, this is a human flesh, and so it's a little fragile in places. You got to be careful. And I personally really enjoyed it. It was exciting. It was stressful, but it was exciting. It helped. I think dissections helped me understand anatomy and better than any other way. And I'm so grateful for those donors that are willing to do that, to enhance, like, not only set the path, but enhance my learning, where I was like, you know what, like, and this is really weird to say, but in my head sometimes at clinical, like we had a part-time rotation, it was like, well, this part of this hurts. And in my mind, I'm remembering that cadaver in that section. I'm like, oh yeah, I know what muscle layers are here. So I'm
just the in-depthness of what we do in PT school is just so wild.
Yeah.
Right? We spend that entire semester breaking down everything in the human body. And medical schools, the main shift with what they're doing is they look at the organs, right? And we spend a small amount on the organs, but we do extremely in-depth with nerves, muscles, tendons, and bones, right? And we know those like the back of our hand. The level of knowledge you have to have. I don't even know how many terms and different things you have to memorize in that course, but it is incredible, the things that you come out of it. Tell me, as you dissected all the bodies, you recognize that all were different, right? What did you learn through that experience?
Yeah, well, our donor, her name was Bonnie. We got to know Bonnie really well. And there was 4 or 5 others. Anyways, it was really interesting taking a look at each body. Sometimes we couldn't find a muscle on Bonnie's body.
It's just non-existent.
It just wasn't there. Maybe they, through lifestyle factors, maybe they were wheelchair bound or something and their muscles atrophied or got smaller and wasted away, right? Some people didn't have certain muscles. Some people didn't have certain, their nerves didn't look the same as other people. So you had to go look at another body to find it. And I think it's interesting how similar we all are, yet how much our bodies adapt to the things we do with them. And I think that was something that opened my eyes, like, okay, like the way I treat my body matters because, it may not show it now, right? But years down the road, my body's going to change depending on what I do with it. And I think that's big. That's what we do as physical therapists, is try to promote lifestyle changes for people, right?
Yeah, I remember looking at an MRI of a 90-year-old sedentary man and a 90-year-old marathon runner compared to a 30-year-old sedentary man and a 30-year-old marathon runner. And the 30-year-old to the 90-year-old marathon runner's MRIs of their thighs looked almost identical. And it's just wild to me that what you're saying is so true. What we do with our bodies really matters. And we choose not to use certain structures, it changes. Our bodies adapt to the demand we place upon them. And what my biggest takeaway from PT school and anatomy was just how we have our fingerprints. All of our fingerprints have our own unique identity to us. And we are just as different inside as we are out. And we got to know the anatomy. We got to know how it's structured. But we have to remember that we are all so different. And what I love about what you were talking about earlier is focusing on the connection piece, seeking to understand. How is it that you feel pain? Because how you feel pain might be different than I feel pain. And my job is to help figure out how you feel pain and how to get you out of that, right? and build that bridge and that alliance together to build a better future for you, right? And then get you to the goals that you want to get. And if we remember that we're all just as different inside than we are out, it really helps us understand we have to create this alliance. We have to truly understand these individuals. Porter, any other takeaways from anatomy?
Just again, like, we're just all different, and what's amazing to me though is the power of adaptability of our bodies, like how it can meet those demands. I mean, what an amazing, maybe for lack of better terms, machine. Like, our body can adapt in such an amazing way. I mean, we can be, back to marathon runners. I mean, I am not a runner personally. And Mackay has pressured me where I signed up for the St. George Marathon.
Nice.
And I'm in the process. And it's work. It's work. Like, it's hard. But my body has the power and potential to adapt to that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very, very simple example, but that's amazing. Like, and so I think having just that perspective of how the power of adaptability in our own bodies and in our patients' bodies is really, really cool.
I'm doing very similar. I am running my first half marathon in a few weeks.
Okay.
And I remember getting to the 5 mile, and I was like, I'm going to die. My heart is racing, like my knees are hurting, everything's, just not good. I'm a fairly fit person and do a lot of activity, but endurance is not my thing. It just takes too much time, right? That was kind of my mindset. But now I just hit 13 miles last week. I was going for 11.
Let's go.
And I was just feeling good. I'm like, let's just hit 13, see what happens.
Yeah.
And I could have kept going. But my body is just learning to adapt, right? Initially, it was really painful and uncomfortable. And I'll be honest, the first 2 miles was kind of always that way.
Yeah.
But then you get into it and your body just starts feeling good. And it's just really interesting that your body is this machine. It's adaptable over time. And, it's what you choose to do with it. If you choose to get to that 5 miles and you're like, I'm hurting, run is not for me. Imagine getting to 13 now, right? Like, you just have to keep going and keep trying and keep adapting. And it's such a cool thing. So appreciate that thought process. What do you feel like is just things that are misaligned in healthcare right now that we're changing? You kind of alluded to it, Mackay, what you're learning in PT school, but anything that you're seeing in the PT world now, but you're learning in PT school that's like, we need to improve this. Anything else?
What do you
I would say initially with PT school, maybe this is going to shift the focus a little bit, but I think that in PT school, it's important to learn the marketable skills of a healthcare provider. Like, we as PTs are musculoskeletal experts, and being able to promote that, to sell that to patients, to have patients trust us, I think is something, and even not even for patient care, but for your own career and be able to be successful as a physical therapist. I think sometimes that's hard to learn in school, and our sole focus is understanding the foundation of healthcare. But I think being able to understand other marketable skills of us as a healthcare provider to be able to benefit patients is something that I think sometimes students as a whole can lack, and I think you have to put in a little extra effort to learn it for sure. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes that can be something that I think could be helped for sure.
Yeah, I remember when it was my first course, Scott Ward, I think he was teaching pathophysiology, and I think his introduction lecture was, whatever you learn in PT school this year will be obsolete by the time you graduate. And that hit home for me. I was just spending some time in a clinic with a clinician that was 30 years into practice. And I was watching some of the things that he's doing. He was so passionate about our profession. There's no one that I've met in my career that loves this profession more than this guy. But I can tell you, he's extremely outdated. There were so many things I'm like, if you only knew the science and how you could elevate your practice. He's been in 30 years and been practicing things that are extremely outdated, but he does it with such vigor and such love for the profession. I have so much respect for it. But what's the gap between that and what you guys are learning? Like, how do you feel like we can collapse that down to get the whole profession and healthcare as a whole to rise together? What are your thoughts on that as a PT student perspective now?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you hear sometimes, at least we've heard from a lot of people on social media, maybe not the right people to listen to, but that things you're learning in PT school are outdated. Like, they're like, the things you're learning are things you might not use. They're just to help you pass the boards, right? But I feel like that's not true, at least in our program. A lot of the research that we dive into is a lot of recent research. And obviously research evolves very quickly. And like you said, you have to, be on top of that, be dedicated to being on top of that. But I think we're prepared and armed with a lot of the most recent science, recent research. And you can't go to somebody like you were mentioning, somebody who's been practicing for 30 years. Say I go to his clinic on my rotation. I'm a student.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go tell him, hey, you're wrong. Stop doing that, right? It's just, you have to, back to understanding how people learn. That's just not how it works. I think
it's quite the challenge to do that, right?
Yeah.
You could do that.
You could,
right?
Sure.
Would that build a bridge, right?
No,
in the way that you stated it, right? But if our students come to our clinics and we're open to learning and we are like, you are here to teach me as much as I'm here to teach you, and we start that way, how incredible is that, right?
Awesome.
I want you to share the most recent research that you're learning. I want you to share everything. You have so much to bring to the table, and I have the wisdom of clinical experience, and I want to mend that with you and create an alliance.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine if your clinical instructor said that to you on day one, right? You walked into a space that was safe, right? And you come in as a student and you say, I want to share what I've learned, but I have so much to learn as well, right? Yeah. And what if we came to the table and said, asking questions rather than just seeking to teach, right? If you think about the Arbinger pyramid is helping things go right. It's a leadership pyramid. And at the bottom is you getting out of the box, meaning thinking you know everything, right? And then the next phase is you getting to know the people you're around and developing a deep connection, right? So if we're talk about this experience with your clinical instructor, you get out of the box thinking you know everything first, right? I'm here to learn, right? You got to remember you're here to teach too, right? But you hold on to that, and then you go to the next level, develop a deep connection with these people, and then you seek asking questions. You say, for instance, you know the most updated research with something as, we talk about ultrasound all the time. What does the research say about ultrasound? Your clinical instructor is using ultrasound. You come in hot and heavy and you're like, dude, do you know what the research says about that stuff? Like, that's so outdated, right? But what if we ask the question to this clinical instructor and we say, can you tell me your thoughts on why you feel ultrasound is appropriate for this patient right now, right? And we're seeking to understand. Yeah. And then the next step on the Arbinger pyramid is listen and learn. Now are we absorbent of that? Or we shut off that we're like, ultrasound's garbage. Whatever you're telling me, I'm not listening to. Because my professor said, right? Like we learned in PT school, but we shut the door. And the experience I had with this is I learned in PT school ultrasound was a bunch of garbage, right? It was outdated. It was placebo, all the above. I had treated this patient's elbow, not even kidding you, for like 8 weeks, and I was not making any movement. And I don't treat people for that long and not make any movement. But I was so certain I had the diagnosis right. And one of my classmates said, have you tried ultrasound? And I gave him the look you're giving me right now, Porter, like, for real? Right. For real. Like, that ultrasound head has got dust on it, and I don't even know how to turn it on. He's like, let me show you how to do the ultrasound. I literally put the ultrasound on this guy. Not even kidding you. 70% better next time he came in. I had spent 8 weeks. We're talking like 15, 17 visits with this guy. And this ultrasound literally solved his problem. I was so blinded of what I learned in clinical-based evidence, in research, that I was not willing to try something else, right? And sometimes we think we know so much that we're not willing to come to the table and say, can we teach each other, right? Maybe there is a really good reason they're using ultrasound, right? But if we follow the Arbinger pyramid, we can never go wrong. We build relationships with people. You can have those conversations, right? And we can bring it to the table and learn together, create the alliance, break down those walls and barriers to create that connection with people. What are your thoughts as we talk about that, Mackay?
No, 100%. I think a lot of it is putting, from both parties, putting your pride aside, putting your ego aside, right? And, just from a patient's perspective, I think you mentioned this before, but evidence-based practice, there's 3 pillars to evidence-based practice. One of them is, a clinician's
clinical expertise.
You'll have to help me with the others, but another is
patient preference and research.
And then research. So all 3 of those have to play into your clinical practice. So if you're going to a therapist, or it doesn't even have to be a physical therapist, it could be any clinician, if they're not taking your perspective into account, if they're not giving their background of what they've experienced, and they're not providing, research on the whatever it is you're going to them for, may not be the best experience, and you may not have the best outcomes. So I think I kind of went on a tangent, but yeah, 100%. You need to put your pride aside and have those 3 things as your main focus.
Yeah, I love that. Porter, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I learned very similar. I just had a part-time clinical just this last semester, and we were in physical agents. And I remember we had just learned ultrasound, and that week, my CI, we used ultrasound the whole day. And initially,
for every patient.
Initially I had that bias, like, man, what is he doing? And I had to take a step back and just ask, like, hey, can you explain what are you seeing as a benefit with this? Like, what's your process? What's your thought process? And just being, I guess, willing to open that up, like he got to teach me some great insight of where, he uses it almost as a grass thinner, as a massage, just as much as the ultrasound, and the patients liked it. Like, oh my gosh, like, and I had that bias, and the patients came back, and the patients were like, oh my gosh, I felt so good last week, like that worked. And so I think, just as we've said again with that triangle, patient preference, clinical expertise, and the research really all comes into play. Yeah. And I think without it, you can't fully build that alliance.
Yeah, I got 2 stories to wrap us up here. One is, we're seeing this pendulum shift a lot in our profession, where we get super heavy into passivity, right? Like just passive things, hands-on stuff, like just those types of things. And then you see this pendulum shift, where it's going like super heavy into loading people, exercise, corrective movement, progression, right? My wife is seeing a therapist right now, a PT, and she's like, it's just like personal trainer the whole session. She's, they never really touched my knee, right? And that's been her whole PT experience. And I agree that that's actually what she needs, right? But I also know this PT is super heavy and doesn't believe in these other things. But is really what I want to say here is, we got to know all of our tools. We got to know when they're appropriate, when they're not appropriate. And we're getting super heavy on the clinical expertise portion, and we're lacking what the patient preference is. If your grandma came in, would you just do an hour of exercise with her? Would you get her knee feeling better, right? If we keep this pendulum shifted too much, we're gonna end up with the same nickname we did 20 years ago of pain and torture, right? Because we're just cranking on people, right? Just pushing them super hard. We need to find a balance. We can't forget that hands-on treatment is where physical therapy started. We got to get people feeling good and challenging them to get to the root cause. And we can't let these pendulums swing so far that we forget all the tools that are given to us. But I love that so much. And I love where our profession's going. As we wrap up, tell me, what are your hopes that healthcare really embraces from what you guys are learning today? What do you hope changes in healthcare forever because of what you're learning in PT school?
I think we were talking about this on the way up, and I think healthcare in the past and still is very reactionary. It's very, I have a symptom, something's going on, I'm going to go get that symptom fixed. Whereas I think now there is a shift in society towards more preventative care, longevity, trying to be healthier before something happens, right? And I think for me personally, I want to be part of that change. I want our society to be healthier. I don't want to be just treating people's symptoms, putting Band-Aids on problems, right? And so I think that's one thing I would say is I want to be part of that shift.
I love it. That's great. Porter, what else?
I think what's exciting too with healthcare and assessing all aspects of health, the therapeutic alliance of a patient is that this care that we provide is empowering. It provides such potential for someone's life that it's not that I had a knee replacement and I'm going to forever walk with a walker, or things like that. That's what's so exciting about healthcare, and even this preventative, is that I can live my life to the fullest for my entirety of my life.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's what's exciting about this shift of healthcare. It's just not reactionary, it's preventative, and it's empowering. And so it's exciting to be a part of.
I love it. We're really creating a revolution together. And I just love that you guys are in the arena. You are educating society. You are improving the healthcare experience for the future generation of physical therapists, and really just collapsing time for people. That's what mentorship is all about. Don't make the same mistakes that I did. Don't go burn down a house, to learn not to put masking on a halogen light overnight. Right. Let's create a better tomorrow for the next generation. And I love that you guys are doing that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Yeah.
Been a blast.